Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm in this 2012 BMW 730 Diesel M Sport. This is known as the F01 model, which was available from 2008 until 2015. If you're looking for a heavily depreciated luxury barge, then you've got plenty of choice. There's the Audi A8, the Mercedes S-Class, the Lexus LS, the Jaguar XJ. They all have the pros and cons. So today, let me talk you through some of the things you ought to know about the BMW 7 Series. As it's a BMW, we may as well begin with what it's like to drive. BMW claim they make the ultimate driving machine, so you'd expect the 7 Series to be pretty good, wouldn't you? It is. I've sort of fallen out with this car. I bought it a few weeks ago. I paid too much for it in hindsight. Things have broken and it's cost me thousands of pounds to repair. It wasn't as described. So yeah, I just haven't had the best start. The whole experience hasn't been a very pleasurable one. Here it is now, currently for sale, for pretty much what it owes me. And yeah, the whole thing was just a complete waste of time. So naturally then, I ought to hate it. And yet every single time I jump behind the wheel, I enjoy it. It drives really well, it's just such a great thing to be in. When you're behind the wheel, it doesn't feel as though you're driving something with similar dimensions to a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. It feels remarkably agile. It feels as though, honestly, you could be driving a BMW 5 Series, only a slightly more refined, softer, more gentlemanly 5 Series. The steering feels sharp and precise, there's not much body roll, it all feels quite balanced and controlled. In fact, it's easy to forget you're in something that weighs nearly 2 tons. Power comes from a 3-litre straight-six turbo diesel, which is the one that most people went with, because it's the best all-rounder, it's very economical, and it's quick enough for most people. I spent a couple of hours in this on the motorway, in no particular rush, just cruising along, and I was averaging 48.8 miles per gallon. From a big 2-ton 7 Series. Even around town it rarely dips below 30 mpg. It'd be a really economical car to live with, this. Sat here with the cruise control on at 70 miles an hour, it's all very quiet and relaxed. You could do miles and miles and miles in this car, quite easily. The 730D produces 245 horsepower. Facelifted cars got an extra 10 or so, but to be honest, 245 is enough to propel this car from 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds. It doesn't feel like the quickest thing in the world, but the power is relentless, all the way till you get up to a license-losing figure of speed. This car is actually capable of 153 miles an hour, so you see what I mean about it being the best all-rounder. If I sting it here, yeah, it doesn't exactly pin you into your seat, but it's all the power you'd ever need. You could go with one of the petrols, which are quicker and quieter, but they'll cost you a lot more in fuel and road tax, so that's the trade-off. Styling-wise, it doesn't quite do it for me, although it is growing on me. From some angles it looks alright, and then from others it looks pretty ugly. I mean, it's definitely big and imposing, as a big luxury barge should be, but it isn't what you'd call pretty. From the side I think it looks alright. The side profile looks quite stylish. This being the M Sport model comes with those 20-inch wheels which fit the wheel arches nicely. And there's no garish, vulgar chrome either. So yeah, it does look quite attractive from the side. The back looks alright too. I would have preferred it with symmetrical exhausts, you know, one on each side rather than 2 together. But yeah, overall it looks alright. It's certainly prettier than the E65 which this model replaced. This one's the standard wheelbase model too, rather than the L, which can look a bit ungainly. So you've got the side which looks good, the rear which looks, you know, reasonably okay, it's acceptable. Then you've got the front. Oh dearie me, it is butt ugly. It's got the sort of face which could frighten a police horse. I don't know what they were thinking about with those kidney grills, they're far too big. It's just too rounded as well, it just looks dopey. It reminds me of the talking head from Art Attack. It certainly doesn't have the E38 worried, that's for sure. Moving inside the 7 Series, it's all quite pleasing. I mean, there's nothing really to write home about, but it's all quite pleasant. I don't like the design of the steering wheel, it's too unshapely, although it does feel quite nice to use. It's nice and thick and just feels great quality. It's certainly not as nice a design as the F10 steering wheel. I love the fact that you've got 2 glove compartments, and the top one immediately makes you feel like James Bond, although I imagine you'll use it to store your Murray mints rather than a wall for PPK. I also like the fact that you've got plenty of other storage cubby holes. You've got a double cup holder down here, which is perfect for your keys, phone and wallet. you've got more storage under here, and you've got a decent sized storage compartment in each door card. Everything you touch, including the dash, is wrapped in expensive soft leather. It's all very nicely done, actually. One thing I don't like is the fact that they've camouflaged this door handle. I guarantee the first time you get in a 7 Series, you'll struggle to shut the door because you just won't see it. It blends perfectly into the rest of it. I like the wood they've used too. It looks clean and modern. It doesn't feel as though you sat in an Edwardian's library. It's stylish somehow. The best thing about the interior though are the seats. They are excellent. Most big luxury cars like this, the seats are they're just too big, so you find yourself sliding around them. But these are very supportive. And the leather just feels so soft and expensive. Most other BMWs you get in, the leather seats are too hard and stiff, whereas these are nice and supple. There's plenty of room up front, plenty of elbow room, plenty of headroom, plenty of leg room, and there's also plenty of room in the back. Not that that'll come as a surprise for a car that's 5 metres long and nearly 2 metres wide. The boot's a very good size at 500 litres, although I think the springs have gone in the tailgate because it won't stay up. Add that to my to-do list with this car. As you drive along in it though, it just doesn't feel intimidating. You really do forget just how big it is, until you try and park it outside your local post office. Then you'll suddenly remember. The appealing thing about these used executive limousines, for me anyway, is the amount of gadgets and features you'll have. So let me run you through some of the ones I've found on this 7 Series. You've got heated seats, satellite navigation, reverse camera, a nice sunroof, Bluetooth streaming. That's about it. Can't help but feel a little bit short-changed. There are no cooled seats, there's no double glazing, there's no keyless entry, no soft closed doors. It's all a little bit mean. I mean, it's nowhere near as basic as my Soviet spec S-Class I bought last year, but it's no Lexus LS either. Don't get me wrong, it has everything you could possibly need, but nothing extra. You can't help but feel a little bit hard done by. I am glad it has the sunroof though, because it makes the interior feel nice and bright and airy, because with this anthracite headlining, it would feel quite dark and depressing otherwise. It rides really well. It's nice and comfortable. It isn't too firm like a lot of BMWs are. It isn't wallowy either, and yes, it's a diesel, you can certainly hear the engine, but it doesn't sound too bad. So although you might not be impressed with the level of gadgets and extras, you will be impressed with the price, the ride comfort, the economy, the speed. There is a lot to like. By now you might be starting to see the appeal of the 7 Series, but you're probably thinking, well, hang on a minute, it can't all be good. There must be some negatives. Perhaps it's unreliable and parts are very expensive. Well, you'd be right. They are. To give you an example, this car needed a new battery, which is located in the boot. Now, on a standard car, that would be 60 or 80 quid, wouldn't it? On a 7 Series, it's £230. Tyres on a standard car will cost you, again, between £60 and £80. On this, they're £200 each, which means it'll cost you £800 for shod it. I've had a couple of mechanical issues with this car too. When you start it, or when you started it from cold, it would be quite lumpy until it got up to temperature. I suspected the injectors were bad, and sure enough, luckily, they scanned it and it was coming up with one failed injector. So I've replaced one failed injector. That cost £300 plus fitting. But it's still, although much better, still a little bit lumpy, so I suspect I'm going to have to replace another one at another £300 plus fitting. And when you think this car is BMW's flagship model, it's £65,000 model, and it's only done 85,000 miles, the injectors shouldn't be failing, should they? I mean, failing injectors isn't unique to BMW. I've replaced countless ones on Audis, VWs, Nissans, Renaults, Fords. Fords are quite a common problem, actually. So, yes, it isn't unique to BMW, but still, it shouldn't happen, should it? You ought to get 200,000 miles out of fuel injectors, but you just don't. And that's quite poor from BMW, I think. Used prices here in the UK for this era of 7 Series starts at around £7,000. But to be perfectly honest with you, all that's going to buy you is a migraine. And of course a warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that you've put all your mechanics' children through college. So you really ought to spend between £10,000 and £12,000 and get yourself a decent one. An M Sport model in a good colour will command a slight premium too. Overall, I think it's fair to say it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's not completely flawless. And for a car that BMW have been making now for half a century, it ought to be flawless, don't you think? And it isn't quite there yet. Still, I think it's worth considering if you're looking for a massively depreciated luxury barge, if you can get over the Easter Island head front end and the fact that parts are expensive. I'd happily own one. I'd happily drive it every day. So thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. If you've got any comments or questions, let me know below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you're interested in getting into the used car business, then check out the link below, because I've created an online portal with nearly 100 videos which explain every single aspect of the used car business. From funding options to sourcing cars to preparing cars for sale, it's all there, so do check it out. So cheers guys, I'll see you next time.